Okay, so if you guys are watching this show, this live stream right now in the afterlife or in the replay, just to let you know that this is kind of our 20-second lead in for those of you who have to watch a dang ad, heaven forbid, before we go live. But nevertheless, this is Thursday night. This is the Car Guy and Six Fan Show. My name is Jason. I am the car guy of this operation. And if we go right next door over here, we've got...
Next door to Kansas, that makes me a straight Six Fan. I'm Six Fan of this operation, Grant Tommy, and happy to be your co-host tonight. All season long. Well, we all know I'll bail on one episode at least, but
at least one.
happy to have our first guest here of season 7, and we'll let him do the introduction of himself. But below me, we have.
I am Aaron from 802 Garage, and 802 is all of Vermont, so I am not a neighbor. I am far away in the barren wastelands of the cold, and excuse me if my camera lighting is a little bit off. I'm still working on a live streaming setup, but I'm happy to be here with the guys and chat about the old cars.
Well, believe it or not, Aaron, you and I are probably almost classified as neighbors because there's only 2 states between you and me.
There you go.
I'm in New Brunswick, so there's Maine and New Hampshire, and you're like right there too. So
that's right. Yeah, that's right. I knew the accent was Canadian, but for some reason I was thinking you were further west.
Oh, you thought I was Canadian, eh? How'd you go figure that, eh?
Yeah.
Anyway, so guys, let's head over to the chat and see who has joined us tonight. If you guys are joining us from Aaron's TikTok live stream, thanks for coming over and joining us this week. We have Everything is Broken Garage has joined us, the first one in the chat. Luke from Coastal Auto Reaction. Drew Hobbins has hit there as well. We've also got Will's Wheels and Joseph Poloski, 815 LSX Swaps. Thanks, Eric, for coming over. Grimm's Auto Service, Turlo's Garage, 802 Garage is in the chat. Welcome. Hollywood and Dudes with Wrenches. Uncle Bobo is there. Many, many more people are joining in. Thank you so much for joining us this Thursday evening.
And just a little house cleaning notes. Did want to just let everybody know there's Jason and I are new to the StreamYard's opened up new admin privileges to co-hosts and things. And so I've been playing around with it. But apparently, if I respond in the chat tonight, I am also Jason. So comments might be coming from Jason. They might be coming from me. You never know. But
we were supposed to tell them it was the producer. Like we need to feel like we're big shots here tonight.
Oh, yeah. Well, we wear many hats here on the Car Guy and Six Fan Show, and so Jason, why don't you lead us off with the interview, and we'll get started.
Absolutely. So, Aaron, I've been following your channel off and on. I want to say off and on because it's hard for me to follow everybody all the time, 100%, and I'm sure that you get that. But one thing, the very first video that I ever saw was a picture of you driving through a town, and it was a lot of snow, and and I'm thinking, that looks like here. And as the video went on, I found out that you were from Vermont and started watching some of what you were doing. Tell us what got you into YouTube and what you do online.
So what got me into YouTube? So I actually went to college for game programming, so making video games. I have a degree in game programming from Champlain College in Vermont. I won't say I'm amazing at it, but I got the degree, so there's that. But while I was in college, so actually I kind of took a break from college, and in between I was working at just a factory, and I bought a 1997 Eclipse GSX from a coworker that was rusty and garbage, and I was planning to part it out. But so it kind of sat at home as I went back to college, and then I came home and I wanted to work on it all summer because I had kind of fallen in love with the car, and I was like, I watch all these car YouTubers, all these people, big and small, and I love what they do, and I kind of want to try my hand at that, and I do kind of have a knack for public speaking. I'm a very social person. I've done like some competitions with that, if you will, elevator pitches, and so like I really enjoy that, and I also really enjoyed working on my own cars. I don't really trust mechanics, and I always wanted to do my own car work. And so I was learning all these skills over time, and I was like, well, maybe I can share those with the internet. And so my first ever video is actually, my first car video was actually working on some really rusty back calipers for a Volvo that my nephew helped me film. And that video actually has still done well to this day. It was like pushing and rotating brake caliper pistons, which can be a pain in the butt. But anyway, so I fell in love with this Mitsubishi Eclipse sitting in my yard, and I wanted to save it. And that was kind of the genesis of the channel, which is why even though the car is a rusty heap, I'm still never gonna throw it away. Yeah, it's right there in my banner. You can see the big booty wing on the Eclipse GSX. And yeah, so that kind of started it all. And so for one summer, I sort of worked on the YouTube channel. It was going well, got a few hundred subscribers. It's always encouraging to get the comments from people just saying how much they love what you're doing and that they want to see more of the car. And that really got me hooked. And so when I finished college, I decided I was going to try for at least a year to make YouTube full time and not go into the game industry. And so that's what I did. And I just haven't given up. Even I'm certainly not getting rich quick. That's for sure. Social media is not a get rich quick scheme. But that's how I got into social media. And I've been into cars since I was late teens, mostly end of high school, after high school. Started with Subaru. I learned how to drive stick in like a late 80s Subaru Loyale. I took my license test in a stick shift Jeep Cherokee. And from there, I'm really into the Japanese stuff. But obviously, I also dabble in everything. But I do have Subarus, Nissans, Toyotas, Mitsubishis, one Toyota. And I haven't really owned anything American, but I've worked on them a lot. So,
well, Aaron, we usually say this for a little later in the episode when we start talking about YouTube growth hacks and lessons learned and advice and all of that stuff. Yeah. But when you mentioned something you said there, it kind of struck a chord with me. And you mentioned the public speaking talent, the elevator pitch kind of thing, and so it got me thinking about how important it is to have a value proposition for your channel. So, two-part question, I guess. What is yours, and what advice would you give to those like aspiring YouTubers here in the chat as to what to work on when it comes to being able to deliver like a clear, concise value proposition?
Yeah, so in the automotive realm specifically, I think there's only a few paths to real success, and I don't. Success means something different for everybody, right? If your idea of success on YouTube is just to build a community who likes what you're doing and people you can talk to, and you're not view and growth focused, that's great. You can do literally anything and you can find an audience. I think YouTube is the hardest platform to do that on right now, and Instagram. I think TikTok is by far the best platform for that right now. So that's my first growth hack right now is still absolutely TikTok, 100%. But beyond that, whatever platform you're on, you want to be, it's not, people always talk about consistency. I don't think it matters if you post on a regular schedule so much as that you post regularly. And it really helps if people can follow what you're doing. So my friends that have the best sustained growth and are building a really good community have one project and they just post a video a week about it. And it may take them a few months to start taking off, but as long as they're good at what they do and they start taking off, it will build from there. So like I can give you lots of examples of this, but if you can build, a 1,000 to 10,000 subscriber following in a year, being very consistent, posting about one project and making progress, that's way better than having one video go viral and getting 50,000 subs who don't care about you, right? And that's, so for long-term sustained growth, if you want a community who will support you for years, work on one or two things or a specific topic at least and work consistently and just post progress regularly. I've done a terrible job at that. That was the original intent of my channel. I didn't do a good job at it. And there are periods where I did a good job and I saw the results, but then I would have to drop off for one reason or another. So that's actually, we can talk about it more in a bit, but the plan for the V10 Impreza project is to re-execute that strategy. The other strategies I would say in the automotive realm are basically testing videos. So, or testing or comparison. If you make your channel all about comparing oils or air filters or tires, whatever it is, if your channel is a comparison and testing channel, I can almost guarantee success. If you can put out one good comparison testing video, look at Project Farm, that's how what his entire channel is built on. You can make that automotive focused, and there is a world for you there. I mean, I have ideas for people to start channels that are just like, you want to start a channel, do this. Like, for example, comparing tools. You can make an entire channel out of that, right? So, and it doesn't matter that there's already people in that space because it's not saturated if you're that so specific. So that's my other thing, testing and comparison. And then the other way to do it is to show a ton of progress in a very short amount of time and aim for frequent virality. So like Grind Hard Plumbing Co. is a great example of this with the Barbie Jeep, or I'm trying to think, if you look at somebody like Motion Auto TV, they blew up by showing the Supra being transformed from going to a junkyard to being beautiful and amazing. Like, if you can do that and basically build up to showing a car going from junk to amazing in a few videos. So that's why the rebuild channels blow up. That's why, the wrecked car and rebuild channels blow up. And that's also why like crazy projects that actually make a lot of progress can blow up. The problem with that is it takes a lot of money, a lot of time in the background, and then it's kind of all shot out in one burst. So, but that's the other route for success. So my three are basically just consistent progress on something people like, comparisons and testing in general, that realm, and then tons of progress in a short period of time, a transformation. Like I've seen a video of somebody just cleaning a car that sat for 6 years and get hundreds of thousands of views on a video that took them 1 day to make, right? And that's because people love to see a transformation. So those are kind of my three avenues for success on YouTube, if you will. But
well,
that's a lot.
Of success,
sorry, but I can rant.
Yeah. No. And speaking of success, I've popped up your TikTok up here on the screen as well, and you guys can take a look. And if you can't see that from your screen, that's 250,000 followers on TikTok.
Just hit it.
And
thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that, is because of his consistency. He's uploading all the time. He's very energetic, as you can tell. Not sure if you noticed, he does like to talk a little bit, and he's very energetic when he's doing his TikTok. So it's drawing in a lot of people. The content and the information that he's got going on over there is quick. It's informative. It's funny in some cases. So like the idea is that if you can draw somebody in, and he frequently redirects from TikTok to his YouTube. So if you want to see the full video on this particular project, head on over to my YouTube. There's ways to cross promote this, and that's one of the things that you had talked about briefly. You can't just be on one platform and expect to be a success 100% of the time. You've got to cross promote, I believe, and sometimes using one to benefit the other is the way to do that. You're using your project to fund, not monetarily, but to fund your TikTok success. So I think the idea there is that you found the platform that's doing it for you. So tell me a little bit about your TikTok success. Like, how did that come about so quickly?
Yeah, so I've been on TikTok since technically it's been 2 years now. I've been on TikTok, but I didn't really start posting a lot until I'd say late 2020, right? Or so 2020, yeah. So late 2020, summer, late 2020. And I started it. I had a few friends who were on it. My friend Tati Zemer is kind of the one who inspired me to get on it. And since then, I've inspired a ton of people on it. Actually, just quick shout out to her. She's doing this really cool competition called Formula Woman. She didn't ask me to do this or anything, by the way, but check out Formula Woman if you want. She's going to do this competition in England to see if she can become a race car driver, which is badass. Anyway, so she kind of got me started on TikTok, being like, wow, I'm posting videos over here. I'm having way more success than YouTube and Instagram. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, maybe I'll try it. So it was like January of 2020. I posted a few stupid videos and none of them did that well, but I just occasionally posted. And I posted one video of mounting some battery chargers on my wall in the garage, and it got like 5,000 views in like a day. And I was like, I know a TikTok view is not worth the same amount as a YouTube view, but I've never gotten 5,000 views in a day on YouTube, even doing this for 3-4 years, right? And so I did a few more things like that, and I did some garage cleaning videos, and they all started to do pretty well. It just started rolling in thousands of views, and I'm like, damn. And so then I started posting about the V10, and one of those videos just blew up, like 200,000 plus views, and I'm like, holy crap, right? And so I started going hard on that, but I would post about other stuff I was doing. I was doing side mechanic work. I was, fixing my other cars. I showed my Eclipse a little bit. I would do some trends and memes. I'm not good at them. I don't know if I'm just too much of a boomer or what, but whenever I try to do a trend on TikTok, it flops. I'm better off just doing my own thing, working on my stuff. But so really it just started to grow. And when I started to get those views rolling in the summer, I started to go hard on it. I started posting like daily because I started it as a low stress, just throw out whatever works platform for me, because YouTube is so high stress. You put so much work into one video, and if it doesn't do well, you feel like garbage. On TikTok, you can make a video in 10 minutes, throw it out there, and if it doesn't do well, on to the next one. You're done, right? Like, and I know it's not like that for everybody, but you get different burnout on different platforms. Now, over time, TikTok becomes more stressful as well. But my basic point is I started it as super low stress, and then when I started getting returns, I invested to get more return on that investment, and it worked. And so yeah, it just really started rolling. And then I met a lot of really cool guys on there who are also have just the number of car creators I've met on TikTok who the world probably would not know about them had they only tried to do YouTube or Instagram, for example. And now they're household names on TikTok, and the car realm is just amazing. And I've managed to get a lot of my friends on there. I don't know if either of you ever seen MT Garage, for example. They do a lot of Honda stuff. I just got them on TikTok, and he's over 1,000 followers in like a week. He's got one video that's over 50,000 views. You know, it's just rolling. And so it's great. It's been great in that way, democratizing. In a way, it brings it back to content being king. People can actually put out a good video and it actually gets views. Whereas on YouTube, you are competing against so many odds, even if your content is good. So I don't know if that's a good description of how I got started, but yes, since it started being successful, I've just kept going.
So there's obviously the OG, the Eclipse, and then you had an MR2. You had a $500 budget build turbo car in there,
Yep.
and then again, we'll probably spend some time dedicated to the V10 Subaru. But also looking through your archives, there's a couple Scotty Kilmer impersonation videos. So take us through what possessed you to head down that route.
I just want to shout out to Tim Turner. He does like to talk. I do. I'm sorry. I'm very verbose. I also saw some other people in there. Somebody said he doesn't trust mechanics. What? Sorry. Yeah. So Scotty Kilmer, speaking of not trusting mechanics. All right. Well, not to insult anybody's taste, but Scotty Kilmer is, in terms of actual real advice and somebody you can trust, he's utter garbage. Great entertainer. Absolutely not worth listening to for anything mechanical. Everybody generally agrees with this sentiment that Toyota is a good brand, right? Great. Awesome. They're also expensive. They're also expensive to repair when they do go wrong compared to some other brands. And it was funny. I had somebody in my comments the other day tearing into me. Well, this parody is garbage. I don't know why it's getting popular again. It just randomly goes through spikes. He's like, well, I dare you to give me an example of Scotty Kilmer being wrong. So I go to his latest video. Within the first 30 seconds, he tells someone, Kia's garbage. You should have gone back in time and not bought a Kia. That's his advice to help this person. And he tells him, and he says, your Kia's got an oil burning issue because they all do that. Kias are trash. And he says, you should have bought a Honda or a Toyota. I'm not kidding. This is what he says. And his only other solution is go complain to the NHTSA, and eventually maybe there will be a lawsuit. And I'm like, Scotty, did we forget that Toyota and Honda have also both had oil burning lawsuits that have either been settled or are still in progress? So that's not just a Kia thing. Have we forgotten all the reliable Kia vehicles there are? Like, can we give any advice on how he can check if it's really a problem with his engine or who he should contact and maybe get a replacement? Anyway, so it's just the blanket statements and the complete lack of real insight. And so that's why I did the parody back in the day is, first of all, he started attacking other creators like Chris Fix. I know he went after Eric the Car Guy in a video. He's gone after Tavares, which, to be fair, Tavares went after him first, but for good reason. And I was like, I'm sick of this guy. And me and a bunch of friends made parodies, and mine blew up. I guess I nailed it. And so that was a significant source of growth for me, which was great. But it's also one of those cases where you go viral for something that's not really your main content. So you got to end up with a lot of subscribers who don't care about what you normally do. But it was a lot of fun. Scotty got very, very upset. I have screenshots still of him calling me and all of my friends trash, and our content is garbage and will never make it on social media. His legit verified account saying these things, so, but anyway, so I think he needed to be knocked down a peg. And I think that was the point of the satire, and yeah, he even went on to put me in videos and put clown makeup on me and a wig. It was a good time. It was a little, and I was tiny at the time. I had like 4,000 subscribers, so.
Well, it's funny you say that because I did a Scotty parody video back a couple of years ago. So if you guys haven't seen that, go back through and take a look at that, because it's basically the same idea. Is I basically mock him for everything he says that's not true, I guess, to some degree. Anyways, yeah. So it's pretty good. Was that my question now, Grant? I'm sorry, I jumped right in there.
Yeah, no, you're up. So,
okay, so I guess I wanted to step away from the YouTube, step away from the internet content just for a second, and talk a little bit about your professional life. You had said that you went to school to become a computer gamer, programmer.
Yeah,
whatever.
Game programming.
What is it that you do today for your real job, your career?
So I am a full-time social media personality, whatever you want to call it. Creator is usually the term I use, which also, because despite my 250,000 followers on TikTok does not make you rich, right? Like, and 20,000 subscribers on YouTube does not make you rich. So I'm broke. I own 13 cars. They're all absolute garbage, but I love them to death. Over time, I'll just be like, oh, look. Like, for example, my most recent acquisition was a $300 1984 Nissan 200SX. So it's an S12, not an S13. Live rear axle, 4-cylinder, really cool. But it was like $300, right? So theoretically, I can make tons of content on that car someday. But yeah, so I have a lot of evergreen videos on my channel, tutorials and how-tos and tool information, stuff like that do bring in some money over time. I make some money from TikTok. And then I also have a little bit of funding on Patreon. I've had some really dedicated people over there who just supported me even when I'm not putting out enough content, and I appreciate them so much. I've made a little bit of money on merch, a very small amount. Merch is a very hard game, and I haven't put a lot of effort into it. And yeah, so I'm just kind of broke, but I do social media, and then I also do a lot of side mechanic work. So like family, friends, stuff like that. Like today I did like $100 brake job for somebody for the rear of their Subaru. You know what I mean? So yeah, would I tell anybody else to do it the way I'm doing it? Not really. But I'm not the type of person who can work like a 9 to 5 and then still have the energy to do YouTube, I feel like, and some people are that motivated. But yeah, so that's what I do. I don't do any programming stuff right now. I have done tech work on the side as well for money in the past, but I haven't recently. So, but I kind of have the degree as a backup if YouTube ever goes under or whatever. So.
Well, looking at the project car fleet, the one that piqued my interest would probably be the MR2, and I know that maybe YouTube's most famous MR2 would probably be Kyle over at Boosted Boys, and then as you scroll through your content even further, I know you made a trip out to see it. So what was it like to hang out with Kyle for a day or a weekend or whatever, or the case it may have been?
So yeah, so the very brief story is that was part of a almost 12,000-mile road trip. It basically started with my friend inviting me to a wedding in Colorado, and I'm like, hey, while I'm in Colorado, I'll go see the Boosted Boys, because me and Kyle had kind of become friends online, just sort of when he was smaller, and I don't want to like overspeak, but believe it or not, asking me for some advice, not so much about YouTube, and more so on like the business side of things, I guess. But now he's much more business savvy than me, I'd bet. But yeah, so we kind of had become friends, and I was like, hey man, I'm going to be in Colorado. Can I come hang out? And he was like, yeah. So I actually ended up crashing at his place for about a week. I stayed at his place, and then I went out to the wedding, and then I came back. And the reason I stayed is I was going to go to Bandimere. I had never been to drag racing before in my life. And I was going to get to see like the van, when it was making 1,000 horsepower, front wheel drive, do a race. I was going to, maybe some of his other cars. I helped him get the K-Swap wagon running for the first time. And literally when he was pulling the throttle cable by his hand out the window while I'm filming for him, it's in one of his videos. So it was a great time. But what really sucked is they broke every single car. I was supposed to get there that day to go to Bandimere, and I was late because the trip was long. And I almost, was falling asleep at the wheel, so I had to stop. And so I didn't get to see them race that day, and they had broken like every car. They broke the van, they broke the hatch. And then I was gonna go to Bandimere the next week. We fixed Hondaroo the day before because they needed to fix something in the engine. I don't remember what. And then when they got it all back together, it turned out that the twin disc clutch was smoked because Emilio had driven it home in 4th gear. And so every car was broken. And then it snowed out Bandimere. So I didn't get to go. So, but it was awesome. I got to hang out with Kyle, Emilio. I met Hayden. I think I met Wyatt that time. If not, I met him later at World Cup drag racing, and got to hang out with Brent and Fong. I mean, they're just like Kyle's a great dude. And Wyatt and Hayden are just as hilarious in person. And I'll tell you right now, Brent and Fong are just as legendary. I mean, like, they're legends. They're exactly like they are on camera in person. Fong, it feels like you could learn trade secrets from him every time he opens his mouth. And Brent is just the nicest dude you'll ever meet, and yeah, it was great. That was awesome. And then, hanging out with them at World Cup the next year too. So going to Fong's shop was like being in real life Fast and Furious. It was like this rundown shop. One bay was Emilio's, one bay was Fong's. He had his CRX in there with holes drilled in it, so it weighed 1,300 pounds. And then in the back, it was just like a dirt floor, shelves and shelves of Honda parts all around you. And then further back was like a grassy over field with just a whole bunch of old Hondas in it. And I'm just like, but meanwhile, he's in there dimpling his heads and straightening valves by hand. It was just amazing. Like, just so cool.
Yeah, well, the funny part is too when you any spoon engines on hand if it was like Fast and the Furious.
Dude, the stuff that Fong builds. I mean, you know, and also I don't know if you've ever been around a high horsepower, naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, like with like trumpets and like an exhaust, you know, that looks like that's only that's this wide and is only 2 feet long. Loudest car I have ever been around. Like, even granted, you know, it's in a small space, but I mean, ear shattering. I was wearing hearing protection. So yeah, the stuff that Fong builds, I mean, he was making, I think, 348 horsepower on a naturally aspirated 2-liter with like meth and whatever, you know. So at that time, and I think he's gone up since then. But speaking of MT Garage, they joined in the chat. I appreciate that. And apparently people want to challenge me to a burnout competition, which that's part of what the V10 Impreza is for, right here. So eventually I'm down for that, for sure.
I almost started talking with the mic on mute. I do that at least once an episode, but I thought we were going to get through season 7 without it. Yeah, so let's actually get into really, I guess, what I wanted to talk to you about in this episode is the V10 Impreza. Like, A, what the hell? But B, tell us a little bit about it. How's it coming along? So A, what the hell? What possessed you in your right mind to A, go with a V10, but B, put it into an Impreza?
Yeah, so I was gonna put another picture up, but I'll wait a bit. But so this is the V10 Impreza here. Let me see. That's the V10 Impreza. This is a 2001 Impreza 2.5 RS. So other than the fact that it's a sedan and not a coupe, this is kind of the most desirable US first gen Impreza. And this one wasn't automatic, so that makes it slightly less desirable. And this is a 488 Magnum, which is the Dodge 8-liter V10 from a truck, not from the Viper, because those engines are like minimum. The setup would have cost me about $6,000. I got this whole 8-liter engine for $150. That's what started it all, really. The shell, this car was free. This engine was $150. And I haven't really told this full story on TikTok. I've told it in pieces, but eventually I will, and on YouTube. And, you know, for anybody who is here from my YouTube, I haven't talked about the V10 Impreza a lot on YouTube, and that's by design. But so basically, I was finishing college. I was home on vacation, and I was at my dorm still, and this is in 2018. I am a little bit older, even though I finished college in 2018. But January 2018, I see V10, $200 on Facebook Marketplace, as all great stories start. And I'm like, what the hell kind of a V10 is $200? And so I look into it. I'm like, it's the Dodge 488 Magnum. They only make 310 horsepower stock. This is a 2001. The early ones make 300, but they make 450 foot-pounds of torque at 2,400 RPM. And I'm like, what do you do with that? And I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be fun. Like, there's no better way to have fun than 450 foot-pounds of torque as soon as you hit the gas. This engine likely makes more torque at idle than the engine in this car did at peak. Like, and that's not a joke. I'm not like, because this car would have come with like 163 foot-pounds, I want to say, and this thing at 1,000 RPM will make that. So anyway, my brother had given me, I keep going over the wrong shoulder. My brother had given me the shell of this car. They took the engine out to put in something else. I was going to put an H6 in it. And then I see $200 V10 and I'm like, wheels are turning. Maybe it's possible. So I offer them $150. I drive like in a blizzard over mountains in a a Yukon with bald tires and a shitty little trailer and almost die getting this engine. Wish I had filmed it all. Didn't have a GoPro at the time. Got the engine, brought it home, and then kind of started on it that summer, but really got into it like a couple of years later because I had tons of other stuff to do in the meantime, shall we say. So, but yeah, so that's what started it all, was just $200 V10 on Facebook Marketplace and a free car. So.
Well, and I think some of that, like you've got to be, I think as a creator, you've got to have your radar fine tuned for things like that. Because sometimes like the weird and the wacky is the people are drawn to. Nobody else out there's doing a V10 swap in an Impreza, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's like, as you just explained, it all kind of came as it was fairly organic. Like it was like, wait a second. Like, well, why not? You know, so I think there's something to be said there as an automotive creator, like to being open to be creative. Like, I mean, people probably make fun of me for as anti-LS swap everything as I am. It's just because it's boring. It's done 100,000 times over, you know. So like, yeah, why not a V10 and a
Exactly, and
Subaru?
that's what I was just gonna say. Is so
Yeah.
many people's first question is why, and I'm like, why not? Like, like I have less than $2,000 into this entire build as it sits, and it runs. It doesn't drive yet, but it runs. And the idea is to get it to move out of the garage under its own power for the first time with, and this is a detailed parts list. I keep records for less than $2,000. I'm cutting it close, right? Because like, you know, the fuel pump's dead. Oh, there goes $40 for an eBay fuel pump, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then there are more stages to the build. But yeah, I definitely think if you're going to be a creator, you can't do things that you're not passionate about because you will burn out far faster. And is this my like dream build? No, of course not. But it's super fun. That's the point. And it was also to be a challenge to myself because after this, everything should feel easy, right? Like that's really the goal of this build is like when I'm done with this, there shouldn't be anything that I'm like, that's going to be difficult. It's like, sure, it'll be time consuming, but this has taught me a lot for sure. There's a lot of hurdles that I've had to, you know, go through that I expected, but not as severe as they've been as well. And I'm nowhere near done. But yeah, there is certainly an objective of this project to succeed on social media. And that's why it's not on YouTube yet. And that's why I started putting it out on TikTok. Because I'm like, if this flops, nothing lost. If this takes off on TikTok, I'm building a following, right? It's a win-win or a win-no-lose situation. But when this build is running and driving, or actually I'm at the stage now where I'm working on the first part to launch on YouTube. But remember earlier when I talked about consistent progress and also showing a lot of progress very quickly. I'm going to be able to do both because I have this entire project built up and I'm going to be able to release videos on the whole build weekly, as well as releasing a montage video. And I'm going to flip the script and put the montage out first. So if anybody wants to see that, subscribe. I'm literally going to show the building process up to having a running engine all in one video. And then I'm going to release the build and then catch up to real life and then keep releasing videos, if that makes sense. So that's the secret plan that's in the background. So anybody's here gets to see it. That's my secret plot for YouTube success. You know, if these videos don't do well, I'll be very disappointed. I'm not going to give up on YouTube, but there's a grand plan here and I'm really hoping people are going to enjoy it, you know, and it keeps me going, knowing I've got to keep making progress to kind of put the best build out there that I can that blows people away. Even if it's going to be on a super budget, it's not going to be beautiful. This is not a show car. This is not going to go around a track, right? But it better be fun, right? Grind Hard Plumbing style. Does anybody care if Grind Hard Plumbing's Barbie Jeep looks perfect and, you know, it can win a Barbie Jeep show car? No, but they care that they ripped it around on the dirt. You know what I mean? So that's my ramble on that. That's the secret plan. The secret plan.
Yeah, before you know it, you're throwing 2 JZs and lawnmowers at that rate too.
Exactly, right? And you said you really like the MR2. I have a plan for that as well. I'm going to SR20 swap that. It'll be the first SR20 AW11 in the world as far as I know. That compared to what I'm doing right here should be like a cakewalk. Like, so.
Well, and I think that's, you know, part of what everybody who is doing YouTube is looking for is they're looking for that one particular thing within the niche that sets you apart from somebody else. And, you know, you've pulled off what I've considered something very unique is putting a Dodge anything in a Subaru anything, let alone a V10. So one of the things that I've tried to do is do just that too. You know, when I bought the Yugo, the plan for that was to do an engine swap in that at some point. And I think I've nailed down the actual donor car, but the idea is that I want to try and do something that nobody has seen before on YouTube that, you know, just because they've never seen it, that's what's going to pique their interest. And I think, you know, for a lot of people, it's not because it's a Subaru, because, you know, there's going to be Subaru haters and Subaru lovers. It's not because it's a V10 Dodge Viper, or not a Viper, but a truck engine, because there's going to be people who don't care that it's a Dodge. It's the uniqueness, I feel, that's going to be keeping people clicking and tuning in to see what the progress update is on that.
Yeah.
What are your plans? So. What are your plans moving forward with that particular project? You said it's not going to be a race car. It's like, what is the actual plan for that? Just to show it off?
Yeah. And so there is, people would be amazed for how slow I am at getting things done, how much planning goes into what I do. that doesn't mean I'm great at executing the plans, right? But I've got a grand plan. And I also just want to mention briefly, I love Subaru. I am like a Subaru diehard, and I would not cut up this car if it had been like a pristine car, but it's like, it had been like minor wrecked in the front. It's rusty. The rocker, literally one of the rockers has like a moss farm growing in it. Like the trunk is messed up too. Like, you know, the interior was, so like, it's got the windshield isn't broken, which is great. And I didn't manage to break it while pounding in the fire, the cowl right here. So that's good. But you know, I love Subaru, and people love to hate on Subaru in my comments. And I'm like, listen, I have like 6, you know, but anyway, and I'm not a huge Dodge guy either. They're kind of my favorite American brand, but I hadn't heard of this engine until it popped up on Facebook Marketplace. And now I love it. I love this engine. And that's one of the cool things about getting creative like that too, is like you figure out what you like. Like, it was developed in the early 90s. It was way more advanced than most of the engines and anything else American at the time. You know, it was wasted spark, but 5 coils, sequential injection, optimized torque curve, you know, and for an overhead cam engine, it was making more torque than any of the diesels at the time. It sounds cool, heavy as hell, but like, it's just such a cool engine. And there's so many, they're so easy to work on too. And it's like, I've discovered a love for this thing that as a EJ20 turbo Subaru guy, you would never think I would like, right? So, and that passion has kept me wanting to work on this thing more. So the plan going forward, and let me see if I can get one of my pictures to come up here now that we're speaking about it. But after I get it running and driving, so basically where I'm at right now is I need cooling system, I need to fix the power steering, and I need to make a drive shaft for it. Can I upload a background? Might not let me. Please log in or sign up for more backgrounds. Oh, that's frustrating. So let me see if I can do. Oh, there we go. I can only have one at a time. So the plan after that, after I get it running and driving, I do need to do some like reinforcing, shall we say, and some covering up of holes. And I'm going to be using the stock Subaru rear end to start out with, which is only an R160. It's like a little tiny differential. So it's almost certainly going to blow up, or the axles are, right? But after that, I have a 370Z rear setup to put it in. I'm going to have to do some fabrication. And then we're going to move on to, and if people are following me on Instagram, they'll see this, but I have some twin turbos coming. So right there, brought to you by Max Speeding Rods, of course, everybody's favorite. And this is one of my favorite things too. If you look right here, I'm terrible at this over the shoulder thing. Well, anyway, right over this shoulder, my left shoulder on screen, it's actually serial number 802, ZY802. They both are. They both start with 802, which is just by coincidence. Max Speeding Rods didn't do that. But so these are twin 3582s. And there's a way that I came up with the sizing of these turbos, which is, I was like, well, it's an 8-liter V10. What's half of 8 liters? That's 4 liters. Is there a 4-liter i5? No, but there's a 4-liter i6, the Barra engine. What does a Barra use from the factory? GT3582. So if I get 2 of them, so it's basically 2 Barras together. Am I right? So, and except it's a Dodge engine. But so the plan, so basically stages are just get it running and driving. I'm not that far off, but the cooling system's going to be some work because I'm putting the radiator in the trunk, and I'm going to do a homemade drive shaft to start with. Then upgrade the rear end after it inevitably blows up the little toothpick axles. And then twin turbo, which surprisingly is going to be quite easy to hook up. Even it's going to be easier than my $500 Nissan because of the way the piping works. But going to shoot for just like 7 PSI at first and see if I can make, 450 horsepower and who knows torque like 600-700 because the engine is just stupid. And it's a super strong Y-shaped iron block, iron heads, 2 valves per cylinder, 2 big valves. The main limiting factor people say for flow is just kind of the rocker and push rod setup. But I'm not going to be spinning it super fast. I'm just going to be adding boost. So I'm going to get HP tuner. So
all good things start with adding boost. So
exactly. Yeah. I don't know if all the American viewers would agree, but
as you said, the V10s in of themselves, they sound pretty unique. So it'll be interesting to see what it sounds like, the 2 turb skis on it. But it's funny you mentioned the cooling system's kind of the next thing you're working on. Like, you think you'll go through less head gaskets on a V10 Dodge than any Subaru motor? Is that kind of the goal, or?
Yeah, we would hope so, right? So I actually think the factory head gaskets on these are sort of just a graphite layered thing. This background didn't work out exactly the way I wanted. I'll redo it. But yeah, and so I mean, Subaru head gasket jokes are mean, but again, like I said, I'm a huge Subaru like fan. And so for me, it's like, yes, this car did come with one of the engines that's notorious for that. But I'm not like a Subaru hater in general. Like I fully like if you give me for reliability, if you made me pick like the V10 that I have in this car or like a a turbocharged EJ20, I'd still probably pick the turbocharged EJ20, but like we only got those. Oh, this is closer. We're closer. But so I'm trying to do the picture of the background. You can see the twin turbos kind of mocked up there and the huge intercooler. And so there's actually 2 inlets on this intercooler right there. And then the outlet is up above and just goes up into the intake. And so the internet hasn't seen these pictures yet. So this is your sneak peek, but we got the 2 turbos. There's just going to be 190 that goes down into the bottom of the intercooler, and then it just goes up. It's 145 over to the intake, basically 190-degree coupler, and then it's like there. So it's going to be sweet. But yeah, I don't have any issues with Subaru reliability. I've been driving Subarus since I was, able to drive. My first car was a 96 Impreza, and I only stopped driving it because of rust issues. And my last car was a 93 that went to 243,000, ran like a top. I spent less than $2 to $3 grand maintaining it for 9 years. So, it's just depends on what you have. The EJ25 was a soft spot for Subaru, but I love them, but torque.
So what's next for 802 Garage? Like I know that we talk about the Subaru, so let's kind of just put that on the shelf for a second. What's next for 802 Garage?
So next, other than just working on this even more, because I have a lot of work left to do, I actually have. There we go. That's a pretty good background shot. I actually have several projects lined up. I need to work on the Eclipse. So a subscriber actually gave me another 1997 Eclipse shell. And so I have 2 1997 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX. One with no engine or drivetrain that is like rust-free and beautiful, but missing a bunch of parts. And one that is a rusty pile of garbage that theoretically runs and drives, right? So, of course, the logical thing is to put all the good stuff into the good car and then scrap the other one. But I'm going to keep the other one. And I would like to do the world's first WRX swapped Eclipse. Because I also have a parts car WRX that I bought for $300 with a good drivetrain. And believe it or not, even the rear differential is the same ratio. So I can keep the GSX rear differential. And then I don't have to feel bad about cutting up an Eclipse GSX because it's already a rusty pile of garbage. So that's one future project. I have the MR2 with the SR20 swap. I already have the SR20. I already have the MR2. I already have a lot of that figured out. I already have a lot of parts. I have the entire wiring harness and ECU. That's kind of my baby. That's like my favorite project. So as soon as the V10 is in a better state, that's what I'm going to work on next. And then I have multiple WRXs that need a lot of love, just because I bought them cheap. And I also have that S12 Nissan I want to do something with. I might try to ice race my turbo swapped 2.5 RS this winter. So see how that goes. I could make some nice spiky bolt tires at some point. Yeah, so lots lined up. It just might take me a few years to get all this out in the air.
I know from time to time on this show we reference Bad Chad, and I don't know if we all can't figure out if we think he's a genius or he's just out there, right? But it's definitely somewhere in between. But what I'm getting at is that one of the things that I think he does do well is he kind of always says, like, whatever the problems are with the car that he gets, that's what tells him needs to just be more or less hacked, right? And that's what it sounds like. You find these cars and the V10 and the Subaru, like, yeah, I'm not going to go repair a header panel and do all this stuff because, the front end damage. It's like, let's just stuff a V10 in it. And so I think there's some like very much like that's, and that's what hot rodding post World War II really was, right? It was just like,
yes,
hey, just get your hands on what you can get your hands on and then figure out just how to make it go fast. And so I think there's something to that. And I think it's very genuine. And I think that's very kind of endearing, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and even though, like, that's the thing is, like, I've never been a big, like, hot rod guy. I'm not into, like, the domestic scene. I appreciate it for sure. Like, I have this appreciation for that. That's why this is such a part of American culture. But I was never like, oh, I want to build my own, what do they call them when you chop up a Model T something? There's a name for it, but I don't want to, T-bucket, I don't want to do a chop top. I don't want to make a nice, beautiful restored, blah, blah, blah. I like the old muscle cars. I love them, but I don't want to do one. But then this is this is my hot rod. You know what I mean? I realized when I started it, I'm like, this is a classic hot rod. I am cutting out a significant portion of this car and putting the largest engine I can afford into the smallest car I have. And we're going to be stupid, right? Everybody's like, what are you going to do with the front suspension? I'm like, I don't know. I'll find out when I get there. Like, if it falls on its face, it'll be good television, right? So, you know, like that. Like I have, you know, I have a set of max speeding rods coilovers that I actually bought with my own money that I'm going to torture test, because first we're going to see if it literally sits on the frame on the stock suspension, which is probably blown. Then we're going to put in the max speeding rods and see if they live for a few days, you know, and then maybe I'll have to get something expensive or add auxiliary shocks or whatever. I see some people laughing in the chat. Yeah, I'm pretty stupid. So, right. And people be like, wow, this project is crazy. I'm like, you can call it stupid. That's okay. And that's the thing, right? This is not, you know, any big YouTuber dropping 30 grand on nice parts from Japan to make a nice car. This is some idiot spending $2 grand to literally convert rubber to smoke for no reason, because I can, and because I want to learn. And, you know, I guess you could say my passion for hot rodding came from making a hot rod, right? Like, what else do you do? And I do wish I had some more friends around here to work on that stuff with, because I feel like that's kind of part of it that I'm missing. But at least I've been able to travel and visit people and be inspired by all the crazy stuff they do, because I visited a bunch of YouTubers and social media people across the country too, and it's always been a great time.
So we're going to turn the questions over to the chat here, and I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to ask you a question.
I was just going to say, Paul Speed Shop says he's out. Aaron, you're cool. Would love to get drunk and build a car with you. I don't drink that much, but I'd have a beer. Grant Jason, keep it real. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Are you kidding me? I have to follow this just sub to 802. Thank you very much. Anyway, I'll let you get back to your spiel.
So way back, probably about 20 minutes ago, Everything is Broken Garage popped up a question in the chat. I didn't know if you caught it or not. I don't know what he's referencing, but he's asking you a tech question: Python or C++?
Sure, and I'll keep this very, very brief. They're two totally different things. Python, if you want to get stuff done fast, Python. If you want to build a program from like scratch, C++. So for everybody who doesn't know tech language, C++ is a very low-level language. Like, you can build Windows out of C++ or like Microsoft Word. Python is a very high-level, what they call scripting language. So you can do something really cool. Like, you could actually take an Arduino and use Python code to write, for example, a speedometer converter, you know, that takes the signal from a speedometer PWM signal, you know, the signal from your transmission, and converts it properly to whatever your gauge cluster needs, right? That's something you can do with Python, and doing it in C++ would be totally pointless. You know, so you can buy yourself a Raspberry Pi for $100, learn Python, and then make your own converters for your car's needs, right? Is it the cheapest, most efficient way to do it? No, but you can do it yourself. So that's my answer to that. Both. Just depends on what you want to do. C++ is a lot harder.
Thanks, Everything's Broken Garage, because I really don't know where I go after that. So but as the chat's thinking of more questions to throw out there, Aaron, one of the things we like to do here on the show is we kind of go around the horn and talk about the upcoming content on our channels, kind of peek behind the curtains. And so I guess I'll start. And I missed putting out my cinematic before and after the video of my Fairmont build. Just I had a Monday workday get away from me, and there went that window of time for editing that. I didn't want to rush this one, but tomorrow is another 5-minute Friday, and we're talking all 6-cylinder tech tomorrow. So I think if you liked last week's episode, you'll like this one. Jason, what's next on Old Car Guy?
What's next on Old Car Guy is certainly going to depend on what happens tomorrow morning with the 440 build. So as you guys know, we're trying to build trying to get a 440 started in a 68 Monaco for my brother-in-law, Tom. And with the current situation with you know what, and the border problem, he's not getting over as often as he wants. So he is coming over tomorrow. We're going to finalize getting that thing started. If we get it started, in that we'll have a video. If he doesn't, then I do have a garage update that I'll make sure you guys have the opportunity to see how far we've come along on the new shop. So that's what's coming up. One of those two videos likely within the next couple of days. Aaron, is there something you can share with everybody that's here that is upcoming on your YouTube that you can kind of let the cat out of the bag?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am terrible with deadlines, so I don't set them very often anymore. I just get work done when I can, because what I've found is even when my viewers don't get disappointed, I get disappointed in myself if I set a deadline and I don't make it, right? So I give myself a lot of goals. I do internal, but before the big V10 reveal, and here's what I was talking about. See the simple intake piping? It's just one big pipe and then a coupler into the throttle body. Anyway, from the twin turbos. But so before this stuff starts coming out on YouTube, I do have some wiring tutorial videos, like how to wire up factory connectors from scratch, or how to replace a pigtail properly, stuff like that. A lot of my like evergreen content has always done well. I have something on like heating a parts washer that I still need to finish editing. I have some reveal videos on my current daily driver, which is a 93 Impreza, and the Eclipse shell that I got for free. So I have a lot of sort of just my type of general how-to and also lots of junk cars content. And then the next big thing, the reason to subscribe to 802 Garage, and hopefully the reason 802 Garage gets a lot more subscribers in the future, will be the first thing you're going to see about the V10 on YouTube, like the first major video, because there have been a few about prepping it and stuff, is going to be, hey, look, this guy started with a piece of junk Subaru and a 900-pound engine, and we now have a running piece of junk Subaru with a 900-pound engine in it. Like, all in one video, in your face, building it in 10 minutes, because I don't know, I'm just going for it. I've seen what other people do to be successful, and I'm like, let's throw something crazy at YouTube and see how they handle it. And then it'll be the rest of the project, and then it'll be getting it driving, and then it'll be twin turbos.
So Luke from Coastal Auto Reaction is asking, what's your favorite holder? What is your favorite light?
What do I daily?
Okay.
What car?
What do you do?
Yeah. So Subaru. I mean, I drove a 93 Impreza for 10 years. It's so rusty. Like, the rockers are gone, the fenders are gone, the trunk is gone. Engine runs like a top. Transmission works absolutely flawlessly. Interior almost perfect. The car still goes down the road like you would never know anything's wrong with it. It's just so rusty, it's not practical anymore. So I replaced it with another 1993 Impreza with even more miles that I bought in Maine for $500. So I went from a front-wheel drive Impreza, which they did make up until 96, to an all-wheel drive Impreza. And so far, I've done almost nothing to it, and I've driven it for 2 years and had no issues. Because the old 90s Subarus were when they got a reputation for bulletproof reliability, and they kind of ruined it. So for me, daily's a Subaru. I do kind of like everything. I am one of those people, but like cool stuff. You know what I mean? My dream cars are basically first gen Impreza WRXs, but yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I really love the Nissan S12 that I picked up. It's so old school and so cool. It has a voice box that talks to you. Driver door is open. Like, it's like so amazing. Just the old stuff that we forget about is really awesome. I think 80s and 90s cars really have my heart.
And I think that's the important thing about the car culture, as it, you know, always ages, and it's almost like always, I know, it's like maybe it's a 25-year-old cycle or whatever. Things that were 25 years old are the cool thing, and you know, we kind of lose sight of that sometimes. That that is exactly the era of car you're talking about now. As we start to wind down, Aaron, I did just want to say thanks for spending some time with us here on Thursday and hanging out with us. It's been a blast. This is a type of car scene that I'm not really well dialed into, but it is. It's always fun hearing someone who's passionate about something like Subarus. It doesn't really matter what the maker model is. It's that's what it means to be a car guy, and so we appreciate you coming on and sharing us a little bit about what you're about.
Yeah, and I will say for all the American car lovers out there, domestic, I do have one project that I would still love to execute sometime. Well, I have two. There's one, we're putting an Aston Martin V12 in a Lincoln Town Car and making it into a drag car for absolutely no reason, because the Lincoln V12 is technically two Ford V6s put together, and Lincoln Town Cars that are really square are cool. That's one of those, doesn't make any sense, but maybe someday. But anyway, the more realistic one is, I really like the Lincoln Mark 8 LSC, like 97, 98 models. They're kind of like the spaceship shaped Lincoln right after they went away from the boxy. And they came with the kind of better, like it's similar to the Mustang. It's more similar to the Mustang engine than like the Crown Vic engine. But so what I want to do with it is soup one up and then put a T56 into it and have a sleeper Lincoln Mark 8. Just because they only came with automatics, but like they're so cool. They're a coupe. They're real swoopy. They look like a spaceship. And like, I'm not super into a lot of American stuff, although I appreciate it. You know, you gotta love a V8, right? But I think that would be cool. Like a cool, not unreasonably expensive project where you just, you know, bumbling around in the grandpa car and then just, drop a gear.
So one final question. I think he kind of answered it a little bit earlier on in the show, but go ahead and answer the question of how much horsepower you're looking to make with the V10.
Yeah. So, and people get disappointed in this, but the internet has also made the expectations of horsepower numbers so unreasonable. People have no idea how expensive it is to make power. And they look at, I don't even know, right? But I know people who know. And sure, you can make 600 horsepower on a K-Series Honda for a few $1,000s. For how long, right? So, and it's like, yes, you can make tons of power on an LS-based V8. You got to buy the V8 first. You got to swap it first, unless you started out with one. And then, you still got to put a cam in it, which even just a decent cam is money. Anyway, my point is that it just makes 310 horsepower. I hear if you tune it, you can get tens of horsepower with just a tune for 91 or 93. So really, it would be amazing if I could make 300 at the rear wheels. Like, that would be great. And then when it's twin turbo, my stretch goal would be, I would say, like future stretch goal would be like 500 horse at the wheels and like who the hell knows torque, like, because, and that's the thing is with the power band that this engine makes, if I can just carry out that 450 foot-pounds for a far distance, your horsepower just goes insane, right? So it's like, who knows, but it only revs to like 45 and you can rev it to 5. So it's like, we'll see,
Well, Grant's already set up, but thanks, Aaron, for taking some time out to join our little shindig that we have here on Thursday evenings. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the insight, the knowledge of what you have to offer on your social medias, and the strangeness, I guess you would call it, of what it is you're doing and the project you're working on currently with the V10. So thank you very much for being here. We hope to have you back again sometime. And when you've got a different project maybe down the road, and see if we can't help exploit that a little bit for you as well. So I'm just going to say thank you, and thanks to everybody in the chat for coming on and giving off some questions and having some good times over there. Grant, why don't you go ahead and take us on home?
Well, Jason, I think you said it best. We like odd, we like weird around here. I think what we like to call that is offbeat hot rodding. So thanks again, Aaron, for joining us tonight on a Thursday. But hey, thanks again, everybody in the chat for tuning in on a Thursday night, spending some time with us. That's going to do it.
Thank you both very much. I just want to make sure I get to say that. Thank you for having me. It's a good time. Hopefully I don't ramble too much.
Nope. It was the appropriate amount of rambling. So that's going to do it for this episode. And to all my Six fans out there, thanks for watching.
Oh, one thing we should mention too, I don't want to forget, is that this is a collaborative effort. Next week, we're back over on Straight Six Fans YouTube channel, where we have, oh my goodness,
I don't have it memorized either. So.
I even know who it is, and I forgot.
Is it Patina Pit Stop? Is it Casey?
I think he's 2 weeks out, but
2 weeks out. So maybe it's AK Strem.
You're right.
We got Alex coming up.
So he's like my best friend on TikTok right now. We talk like every day, and I love his build so much. That's why I knew who it was. And yeah, he's one of the great success stories. That would be my only other piece of social media advice for anybody out there watching right now. Don't be afraid of TikTok. It's not just dancing teenagers. It's not just memes. The amount of amazing automotive content on there is just crazy. And your chances of growth just by putting out decent automotive content, wild. And you can tell because Instagram and YouTube are both copying TikTok and still pushing shorts and reels hard. So just trust me, just venture into it, tiptoe. Don't be afraid. It's a great time and great creators on there like AK Strim. So definitely go watch that on Straight Six Fan. He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
All right, guys. Thanks. We'll see you again next week.